there, welcome to Just Risa. Here we deep dive into true crime, current events, pop culture, and life's little oddities. Stick around, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for your regular dose of intriguing stories and thought-provoking conversations. And remember, always be unapologetically you.
Hello, I hope everybody can hear me. I have been trying to figure out exactly how all this works, and then my computer decided it wanted to be weird, and StreamYard and YouTube decided they wanted to separate, and things just got a little strange all at once because I was going to do this a little bit earlier today, so it took me a little while to get started. And I'm just checking on something really fast. I want to send out this link to the few people that mean the most to me to come on and check things out today. And then I'm going to get started with part 2 of this discussion we had yesterday with Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt and some of the things that are going on in the news. And again, I am new to StreamYard. I am just now figuring all of this out. I was going to come on live a while ago and was going to pop up and everything was going great. And then my computer decided it wanted to be weird on me. So I had to redo all of my settings and find all of my videos and have everything prepped because I don't want to make myself look like a big old fool. Yeah, so that's just me. I'm part of how I function as, I guess, a person, as a human. So I want to show something that I meant to show yesterday. This is just something kind of for fun. I want to do things on what I call life's little oddities, which are just fun things that I like to share with people. And this is one of those life's little oddities. This little couple is so cute. This is a really old video, so I don't really even know how many people have seen this before. I am hoping that my sound's still going. Like I said, I am learning all of this. I'm having to figure it out. Yesterday, I muted my mic on accident and was talking for a really long time with my mic on mute. So I'm just getting used to all of this all at once. But these people they're so cute. I have no idea who this is. They were apparently at the Mayo Clinic, which is a large hospital. So this would have been out in the foyer of the hospital. And it's just cute and it's sweet and it just makes me smile. And that's what, if anything, today you need to smile and have a good laugh. Laughter's the best medicine for all of this negativity that we've got going on in the world right now, and especially on YouTube. So just to have a little fun and a little laugh, here you go.
Over here.
like I said, just to give us a little bit of a laugh, a little bit of fun, because that's what I'm all about, is having a little bit of fun. Sorry, I'm getting sound from somebody else's stuff right now. Give me just a minute to figure out where it's coming from on my computer. I was going to listen to somebody else and it's playing somewhere else on my computer. So anyways, um, I want to give people a good little laugh and a little bit of fun. And I don't know all of the settings right now. If it's a little bit loud, don't know if you're talking about me or the video. If you could let me know, just so I can start adjusting those settings. I'm not sure how all of this works out on StreamYard yet. I'm still learning. Um, but I'm a fast learner and I have used similar platforms, just not this exact same one. So, what I wanted to start with, we started looking at a video yesterday about Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt. And they are a case that has been in the news. They have been actually gone through the court system and they took plea deals with their case. So this is a real case. It's something that has already gone through all of those channels. And this is with a fair disclaimer here. This is content that is under fair use with copyright in the Copyright Act for purposes such as criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, and research. And this is no copyright infringement intended on anything I show. I found this one video from a YouTuber I follow. Their name is Serialously. I do have the description in the name in the description if you want to go to the full video yourself. And it's just the best one of a combination of everything over the last really 10 years with this case, because this case started in 2015. And Ruby started, if you have missed it, she started her own YouTube channel called 8 Passengers, and she was filming her family and putting her family on YouTube. And she came under fire because of some questionable parenting decisions that her family shared on how they were parenting their children. Some of the things they were doing were starting to get concerning to people. They started to share to the authorities that they thought something was going on. And eventually, sadly, it took a long time for authorities to actually step in when one of her children escaped the house they were staying in and found a neighbor. And that's how the horrific CA that was going on at the hands of these two women was exposed, and their case moved forward in the legal sense. So that's just kind of a little bit of a background if you are not familiar with this case. We started this yesterday, and this is Ruby Franke with her husband. His name is Kevin. And as I said, they started out just showing their family. And then things started to become clear to their YouTube audience that something was not right behind the scenes, that something was going on. And it ended up that everything everybody was seeing was true, except it was way worse than anybody actually knew at the time. And their older daughter, her name is Sherry. She wrote a book recently. I have the book. I've not read it yet. I'm very ready to read it. I've just got something else I'm finishing first. And then I will deep dive into her book. But she wrote about her experiences. So you can go and you can find her book. I will have to go look up the name of it in just a second to tell you the name of it, and I can put it in the description where you can go find her book and her story. So here is a little bit more about Ruby Franke. Where we ended up and stopped yesterday was when Jodi Hildebrandt started coming into the system. And we'll talk a little bit about her system, and it's a cult-like environment when you look at her form of life coaching, which she called Connections. And it's very eye-opening what some people think is appropriate for being parent, what some people think is appropriate for your family, with your spouse. And it's just that's why it draws me to true crime, is to look at how people are different and the motivations behind what people do and why they do it. It's intriguing to me to know why people do what they do. And again, how to protect myself, how to protect my children, and how to protect my students inside of a classroom. That's what draws me to true crime. So without further ado, this is Cult Influencer, the Dark Side of YouTube's Perfect Mom. And there is a new Hulu documentary out called Ruby Franke, Devil in the Family. You can go look that up as well. And this is from the podcaster Serialously.
Wondering, what did Chad do? Okay, we're not even going to entertain that stuff, but it's an accumulation of things over years, well before we ever started YouTubing or well before we ever got into social media.
These types of camps have been heavily scrutinized in recent years after people came out with horror stories of mistreatment, abuse, and even torture. But even after Chad returned home, he was still forced to sleep on a beanbag in the middle of the living room, and he had his bed and his bedroom completely taken away for 7 months.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that. You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago.
And the things that we show and share, and the things that many of you are criticizing and calling are actually things that mental health professionals have counseled us to do.
We got accused of abuse when we sent Chad to Anasazi. Guess what? The first thing that they did was take a bed away.
All of these examples and more caused there to be several reports by concerned viewers to DCFS, and even a petition with nearly 18,000 signatures calling for an investigation into Kevin and Ruby for the alleged harm toward their children. However, at the time, all the reports were claimed to have been unfounded. It seemed like there was an even bigger spotlight on the Frankes and on their parenting, and their videos started becoming more and more sporadic. They went from posting every day to every other day, and then just stopped being on a regular schedule altogether. After this, Ruby attempted to start a clothing company called Ruby Do, but it ended up being largely unsuccessful. By 2022, there were no new videos being posted to the 8 Passengers channel, but Ruby wasn't gone from the internet or YouTube completely. After her unsuccessful clothing line, Ruby began attending life coach and therapy sessions with a company called Connections. And then she eventually started making appearances on the business's YouTube channel called Connections Classroom with the founder, Jodi Hildebrandt. Jodi was briefly mentioned in the video where Chad discussed his wilderness camp punishment and the loss of his bed privileges, and he referred to her as his therapist.
A phone call yesterday with my therapist, and she taught me about truth and distortion. Mom probably talks about Jodi all the time. But
I've mentioned Jodi a few times. She has a podcast called Connections with an X.
Do you live in Texas? If you have been in a car accident in Texas within the last year, even as a passenger, you might be in.
So why was Ruby?
So this right here is Jodi Hildebrandt, and Jodi is who made this company called Connections. and she was a life coach, and she was teaching people how to take different approaches at life and then go and apply it to yourself and to your home, to your family, and how you parented your children and how you had your relationship with your spouse and with your family. And that is what her organization was centered around. And when Jodi and Ruby came together and became a duo together, that's where this case really takes off. And no, that is not me on the main video. That is the YouTuber. Her name is Serialously. Let me look. I'm at 24 minutes. Let me find. Here is her face back at the end of this. So that is who is doing the speaking on the back end. Again, the full video is in my chat description. You can go and look and watch. She's a fabulous person talking about true crime as well. Highly encourage you to go like and subscribe to her if you enjoy true crime. Let me go back to where we were right here.
Counseling and addiction counseling. Specifically, the LDS Church views and viewing no matter how often as an addiction that needs repentance and therapy. However, several clients who received services from Jodi claimed that she would relay their personal business discussed during therapy with church officials. One of these allegations was actually proven, and her license ended up being put on probation for 18 months. So after the 8 Passengers YouTube channel video started fizzling out, Ruby became a life coach and listed as a certified mental fitness trainer for Jodi's Connections company. It seemed like Ruby and Jodi were very like-minded individuals, because when she began appearing in videos on the channel, a lot of the messages were very reminiscent of how she already was in the past, just much more extreme. The website JodiHildebrandt.com thoroughly explains what Connections is and what it strives to do for its clients. It says that the core teachings of Connections is that for a person to achieve a true connection with another human being, they must not be in distortion. Distortion is something that Jodi came up with, referring to people being addicted to something like work, shopping, games, sleep, social media, driving, receiving compliments, exercise, eating, drugs, alcohol, sex, hobbies, or even their spouse. Really anything. Distortion can also be living in shame and denial, knowing that you are not enough, being codependent in your relationships, living in lust, being overly sexually attracted to your spouse, and controlling and manipulating others. Literally, you could find the definition to fit almost any single situation, which my guess and my suspicion is that was her goal, because then you could tap into a client who is experiencing anything.
One of the things that I have researched a lot is information on cults. If it's a big cult, I've done deep dives on them. This is just a hobby of mine again. I like to deep dive true crime, and I get books about different crime cases, about different things. I go on a deep dive. I went on a rabbit hole last night and was up half the night looking at some things that are currently going on with about 3 different cases that I'm following at the moment. So that's just me. And one of the things with these cult leaders or with people who want to be manipulative, they like to put things in a broad sense so that then you say one part of something with you and they can latch onto it and put it into their big umbrella. So it's kind of an umbrella concept where there's multiple things that could fit under that umbrella. You can be addicted to so many different things. It does not have to be drugs and alcohol. It can be you're addicted to watching too much television. You're addicted to eating too much sugar. You're addicted to staying up late. You're addicted to sleeping too much. You can be addicted to watching pee on the internet. You can be addicted to texting. to YouTube, to social media. There's so many things. And so Jodi would use anything she could and put it underneath this umbrella and pull you in that way. And that's how these different people just in the world, but especially on the internet, use what you say to manipulate and pull you in to be part of their cult, quote unquote, part of their gathering, of their following, however you want to classify it. And they use that to manipulate you into what they're trying to push out. And even if you push back at the beginning, no, I don't think this is right. No, I don't think this is right. This is not what I believe. Eventually that gaslighting and the everything comes into fold where you start to follow in line with what you initially thought wasn't a good idea or had some kind of problem to you at the beginning that you just start to overlook, and then you get sucked in, and then before you know it, you're doing things or saying things that you never thought you would say or believe. And it's going on in our world. It goes on with a part of this with Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke does go with religion, and with their religion background, with who you're going to follow on YouTube. If you believe this side or this side, it's part of all of this as well. And it's all this mindset that it's okay now because of this, this, and this, instead of really checking our true core values and going back and checking and say, hey, wait a minute. No. This was wrong from the start. How did I get from point A to point B? And that's what I hear a lot of people right now talking about on a lot of different channels is how did we get from here to here? And then how did I get sucked in and believe all of these things that were not actually happening or were actually happening? And I was taking somebody else's viewpoint for it. I got sucked into it. So that's what happened with Jodi in connections with Ruby and several other people. This was not just the Franke family who was involved. It was other people who were taking their courses. And Ruby, she actually became a coach and started teaching people these things that she was doing at home and that people were seeing and reporting to the authorities that they were seeing a problem with this behavior, and they were already calling it out. And she became a coach to help people learn how to better themselves and better their family was their whole premise. So here's a little bit more about connections and Ruby's involvement.
Jodi explains that everyone is in distortion to some degree, but that she can help you to overcome distortion and live in truth. Jodi teaches that there are 3 core principles which must be developed in order to truly connect with anyone and to avoid distortion. She says that boundaries need to be set to distance yourself from people in distortion so you are not drawn in with them. The 3 core principles of connections are impeccable honesty, rigorous personal responsibility, and humility. She encourages clients to refer family members to join the program so that they can also experience true connection. Jodi teaches that the truth and the 3 principles are the only way to true happiness in relationships. Members of the group develop a bond by sharing vulnerable experiences with each other and validating each other's experiences. As they continue these patterns, they distance themselves from their families. Family and friends are confused about this new term distortion and a whole slew of other new terminology taught by Jodi as the only and absolute way to connect. They are then encouraged to attend classes so they too can learn how to not be in distortion.
If we take this into the context of the cult mind and things we're hearing other people talk about. She's using the terms distortion. You're in distortion, which means you are going against what she believes to be truth. Whether it's truth or not, it is what Jodi believes to be truth. And so you're going against that. You're in distortion. So you are out of my group. And because of that, you deserve some sort of punishment, is basically what her group was teaching at this time. And we see these exact same things right here. They try to isolate you, they try to cut you off, they try to talk to you and say that there's things that are wrong. They try to make you think, even though you didn't at the beginning, something is wrong. Repeatedly telling you something is wrong and changing your mindset, changing your viewpoint based on their version of truth. And then eventually, what happens is your thought process, your morals, your values, your core principles sometimes get distorted themselves. It's really ironic that she uses in distortion because what she's putting out is a distortion of what most people think is an acceptable way of dealing with life and dealing with your children and your family. So it's a weird way of saying, when she's saying you're in distortion, basically what she's saying is you're not following her version of truth. And but what they do first is they isolate. They want to take you away from everybody that is going to talk any kind of sense into you, so that you're only getting that viewpoint from that particular side. And that's what's swaying your opinion and your actions. And that's what these cults try to do. Instead of being a person who's independent thinking, seeing things from all sides, and then making your own evaluation and judgment based on your values and your principles that you hold true to. So that's I've just heard a lot of people talking about this lately, this exact same thing, but in relation to what's going on their channels and in their life. And that's why I chose this case as one to highlight, because I'm seeing this in other places as well. And there is way more to this case. There is way more to this case that's ongoing. And that's where I want to take my viewers and start looking into, as these things come up, what is really going on with the world of connections, because it is still going on from the news reports that I have been hearing. And again, this is all alleged. This is all based on what I have been researching. This is for commentary and educational purposes only. And this is just my version of reality based on what I have been seeing from my home and from my computer for a considerable amount of time. I've been following this case for a while. Their court case was in 2023, so it's been a while since they've been, or 2024, in that time frame. So here's a little bit more about their thought process and how Connections was working as a system.
Their friends or family ask questions or raise concerns about the teachings, the student often immediately makes a phone call to their Connections support group to avoid being drawn in to that distortion themselves. If the family and friends don't learn these new skills for connection, they will be cut off in the relationship for being in distortion. In addition to the Connections 101 classes, members attend group or weekly meetings with Jodi and other students to discuss in a more intimate setting how they were in distortion the previous week. The revenue from these group and connections classes that Jodi has made was conservatively estimated to exceed $30,000 a month. Now, the other concerning component is that Jodi heavily weaves in her teachings and her truths with the teachings of the LDS Church, cough, cough, Lori Vallow, like how Christians capitalize pronouns referring to God. In Connections, truth is capitalized, as if to signify that her truth is the same or just as important as God himself. So the Connections truths in regards to relationship also carried over into parenthood as well. And Ruby has even blatantly stated that she loves these truths more than her own children, and she doesn't love her children unconditionally.
So what they just mentioned there, they do come out of the LDS faith, which is the Mormon religion. I do want to make a disclaimer. Not everybody in a particular religion faith believes the same way. There are radicalists, there are extremists in every religion, regardless of which one you follow. And this in no way makes it I in no way want to make this seem like the Mormon Church or the LDS Church itself is responsible for what happened within this case. Do more research on your own about different religions, but I do want to make that disclaimer very quickly that just because you are a member of a particular faith does not necessarily mean that you are in these extremist views that certain people have that are in the media. So I do want to make that really quick.
Which, let's just say, I think most of us could already tell.
I love principles more than my child. Yikes. That's a really, and that is the truth.
That is the truth.
It's just so disturbing to hear someone literally say those words and talk about these made up truths as if they are God. Ruby and Jodi would discuss all sorts of topics, but I think the ones pertaining to children and parenting disturbed people the most. If an adult wants to do culty stuff, believe whatever they want, do a bunch of nonsense, that is fine. But it's when children have ideas and toxic behavior forced on them that it becomes a bigger issue. They don't have a choice. They aren't able to just leave.
There we are. Hi, we are live in Mapleton, Utah at a home of somebody who is learning how to be a mental fitness trainer. And we have Ruby here. And Ruby is a part of the original 10 women that are being trained to become mental fitness trainers. So Ruby, you want to tell us about what a mental fitness trainer is?
So this was part of how Jodi built Connections. She brought in people who she was coaching, and this was part of her manipulation of bringing people in, teaching them her system, and then they go out and teach other people her system. Except her system, as you will see in my mind and my viewpoint, is very toxic. And her system eventually led to criminal charges against these two women. So this do have trigger warning up on here that this does involve child abuse later on in the video and some horrific things that Ruby's younger children went through. And it was mostly due to the fact that she became a dynamic duo with Jodi. And the more that they went along and the deeper they got, the darker her viewpoints became and the more concerning her actions within her parenting style became.
Yes. So we are getting mentally fit the same way your body would get physically fit by running and lifting weights and working with a personal trainer. We are getting ready to be your mental fitness trainer. We're getting truth, really easy to teach. We're making it very simple, boiling it down to principles. That's how you're going to understand truth, is really knowing principles, being able to put words to it and help you, and you're going to feel so much better.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to span over here. We've got, okay, can't see.
There we go.
Tori and Sherry. How you feeling about what you're getting ready to go out and do? Teaching truth to the world.
Excited.
So excited.
Excited. Yeah.
Coming to a town near you. And here's Kim and Jess.
Hello.
Becky, Liz, Michelle. And then we got Johnny over there. Johnny.
And Johnny.
And Johnny.
And me.
And
There's
Pam.
Pam.
Did you get Pam?
Nope, Pam's over here.
Hello. Johnny is our male person who comes in and does the role play for the male, so we can practice. So he's quite talented to do the role plays with us. So we appreciate Johnny.
So one thing about connections and again, this mindset, they wanted mostly women in their group, and they taught women how to relate to their marriages and to their husbands. And they would do things like this. They would role play with people being their husband. And this is allegedly, but it is been recorded. Everything was recorded. So, and more is coming out that these things were actually going on in the dark, in the back end, and not all specifically on YouTube or in the media, but they would have these people being life coaches, and they would actually do practice sessions with how you need to behave with your husband, with your children, with other people, role-playing different situations. And this is that mindset of getting into this is okay. It's a way of training our brains into a response. If you do a lot with psychology, we have, it's Pavlov's dog, where they rang the bell, the dog got a treat. The dog rang the bell, the dog got a treat. And they actually trained the dog to ring the bell meant you got a treat. And it's just a classic example. If you do anything, any type of psychology study or classes, that's always a classic example of how we, it's not really grooming, but how we can manipulate somebody into a reward system of some type and manipulate their thinking based off of what we're trying to put out there. I don't know if that makes any sense. I really don't even have anybody in my chat right now to tell me that, but that's just my thinking on all of this. Is it's a conditioned response. That's the word I was thinking for. It's called classical conditioning. You are conditioning the person to respond in this way based on what's happening. And even if that was not your initial thought process, over time, it gets eroded down to where you are actually doing the expected outcome when something occurs. It's classical conditioning. You can go and look up that. It's Pavlov's dog is the classic Freudian, I guess. I don't know if it goes that deep. And I am not a psychologist. I am not a doctor. I do lots of research. I do lots of studying. I have taken some classes in psychology, so I do have some background in psychology. I am a trained mental health first aid responder. But again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I am not a psychologist, and I will never say such. And all of my content is used under fair use for commentary and educational purposes only. And they are my viewpoints and the way I look at things in the world outside around me. Here's a little bit more about connections.
He's a man of truth as well. He's also a mental fitness trainer. So glad that you're with us. And any of you who are interested in becoming a mental fitness trainer, we are going to open that up to train other people. So give us a call or email us at support@connectionsclassroom.com, and maybe you can come to the next retreat for the.
Come work out with us.
Okay, so I think I've told you guys before that I'm trying to really make this year my healthy year. I'm trying to focus on wellness, on eating right. I've been obsessed with finding ways to eat healthier, but without feeling like I'm missing out, because I'll be honest, I love carbs, I love sandwiches, I love quesadillas, all that good stuff. But that is exactly why Hero Bread has been like such a game changer in the space of food for me. I've talked to you about them before too, because I honestly can't get enough. They've also been a life hack for me with my kids. And let me just explain it, because I want you to imagine for a moment making like the perfect breakfast sandwich. You know what I'm talking about. Not a McMuffin, none of that. I mean, even though those are good, but like fluffy eggs, crispy bacon, melty good cheese on like a soft, chewy bagel. But
That looks really
only
yummy.
has 4 net carbs,
I think that
0
looks really
grams of
yummy to
sugar, and
eat.
19 grams
I'm
of
gonna watch
protein.
this ad
That
just
is
because
what
it
Hero
looks
Bread
yummy.
does. Or picture yourself rolling up, Taco Tuesday, making
Love
the
me
best
some
tacos
Taco
ever with
Tuesday.
tortillas that won't completely destroy you or your goals. It is insane how good this stuff is. I think I told you too. I get
I've
their
never tried
Hawaiian
that
rolls
brand
because
before.
my daughter Emmy, I don't know what happened, but she is just like obsessed with Hawaiian rolls. I swear, she can chief an entire sleeve in like 2 sittings. And so
I have tried, sorry, I'm getting some background noise. I have tried wild grain, and their stuff is really good. I highly recommend wild grain if you ever see that one. And I am showing this. This is the way that a lot of people do the YouTube game, and this is how you get a sponsorship. And I don't know how this works. I do know that these are people who are using different companies to advertise. And I actually have something I want to show in a little bit that is similar, but a different take on things that I'm trying to push on my channel. That's why we're watching this one. But this one actually looks yummy. Maybe I need to try this one. Wild grain was really good.
advertised as healthy, especially when it's bread. It usually tastes like cardboard. But Hero Bread, it is soft, it is fluffy. And honestly, if you didn't tell me that it was low carb, I would never even know. And my kids don't even know. And they're the pickiest eaters ever. And the fact that they have everything, sliced bread, tortillas, bagels, even those dinner rolls or Hawaiian rolls, I mean, it means that I never have to give up on my favorite foods or my kids' favorite foods. So if you've been trying to eat better, but you refuse to give up the good stuff and you want stuff that tastes like the good stuff, you need to try Hero Bread. And right now they're giving you 10% off. Just go to hero.co and use code AE at checkout. Trust me, you will not regret it. I think I have also posted like my Hero Bread hauls on my stories over on Instagram. So if you want to actually see this stuff for yourself, go check it out. Again, that's hero.co and use code AE for 10% off. This is Connections according to Jodi.
So let me tell you a little bit about what I've been doing. For the last 20 years, I've been trying to figure out how to help my clientele. I've been working with tens of thousands of people for 20 years, and I've been asking God about how to help heal them from this array of mental and emotional illness, okay? And so I have been on this journey trying to understand how to use principles that are God's in helping people heal.
So that was a clip from the Eternal Core Conference in April of 2020. In this, Jodi describes how she got to this belief system. Jodi grew up as the 6th of 7 children, and she described her parents as emotionally shut down, and that she didn't realize that as a child, but she does now, saying, and I quote, "They were emotionally completely not available for me or for any of the other children. And so chaos went on in our house a lot, and none of us were really allowed to emote other than to get angry." So she learned how to be really nice, kind, helpful, gracious.
Sure enough, I ended up with an eating disorder, right? I started trying to control everything because I had no outlet to emote my emotions. I had nobody there to validate me and say, yeah, that makes sense that when your brother, put you into a pretzel, that would hurt and that you would want to tell him, stop. You don't like that. I wasn't allowed to do that. Here's the key. This is the key. Responsibility. Responsibility. I am responsible for 3 things. I've learned this over, like I said, over the last decade plus. I am responsible for my own perception, which means my thoughts. And then when I perceive, I then feel emotions. And when I feel emotions, it's because of my perceptions. And when I perceive and then feel emotions, then I then choose to behave. And so I'm responsible for that whole process in everything, even when I'm depressed. So when I talk to people, they'll say, yeah, that's nice and good, but I have depression. And I'm like, okay, wait, stop. You missed what I just said to you. And then they'll say to me, are you suggesting that I'm responsible for my depression? And I'll say, yes, you are. That's one thing. If you don't know me, I'm really blunt, really direct. Some people hate that. Some people love that. It's like, tell me more.
The other principles to live with include characters of truth, humbleness, honesty, responsibility, and vulnerability, or else you are disconnected and you manifest control, aggression, and anxiety. She goes on to say that she's learned that the only thing she can control are her thoughts, feelings, and behavioral choices, and that she cannot control anything else. And then she uses an example where she talks about a parent-child relationship.
Oh, I wish I could control them. I wish I could get them to do what I want them to do, and you just can't. But when you try, you then disconnect from them because you go into a controlling posture. You go into a dynamic instead of a relationship with them. So people will say, well, if I love this person, then how do I get them to? And I'm like, can you hear how you're going down control lane? You can't get them to. Your job is to speak the truth to them about their responsibility, which is they're responsible for their own perceptions, their own feelings, and their own behavioral choices. So no more of this. You made me do this. Because of you, I feel. If you wouldn't have done that, then I wouldn't have done this. All of that is called distortion, which means distorting the truth.
So by controlling others, that is distortion or distortion of truth. And then she says that each and every one of us is responsible for learning these principles for ourselves. And then if you have charge over anyone else, such as children, grandchildren, clients, etc., you have a responsibility to teach them these principles too, so that they too can be released from distortion. Okay. Now, this next part is actually particularly interesting because of how Jodi says that God told her about distortion.
I was teaching about shame, and I went to God and I said, people can't understand the word shame. Do you have another word? Can you give me another word? And I heard.
So here's another way that people try to manipulate you into these thinkings of this cult mindset. They start trying to tell you you don't understand it, and there's pockets of truth in what they're saying on what you don't understand, mixed in with pockets of their thoughts and what they think and how they're trying to manipulate your thinking. And then they turn a lot of times to religion, and then this is what God says to me. And it may or may not be what God says to them. I am not going to judge anybody on that. I do have deep religious values myself. I am very religious person with my own spiritual life. I do think God does talk to us. I will never say God did not tell somebody to do something, but these leaders of these organizations and these groups, they like to use religion to try to sway you to their viewpoint. And they'll start saying things like, I had visions from God. God told me this. God led me to this. And that's part of pulling you in even deeper after they have isolated you, after they have started to ingrain their thoughts and the way they want you to think. Then we add in, now we've got this spiritual component. We've got this spiritual side of things, and this is going to be another part of the control, another part of how they're going to try to switch up your thoughts, your values, what you start with as a person at the beginning, where you end up at point A to point B. This is how they want to get there. This is the tactics, and these are classical tactics. If you look at any of the other big cult leaders that have been around the entire world, this is kind of a red flag way of how they pull you in and how they keep you in once you get there. So this is a good case to look at, that kind of a case study. How do, and a modern one, this is not David Koresh or Jim Jones or Heaven's Gate or any of those back in the day. I can't even think right now about the guru guy that likes to pretend that he's levitating. I can't think of that guy's name right now. Those kinds of big cults, but this one is on a different scale and in a different way. So these are just my thoughts. This is all just for educational purposes only. This is not any kind of accusatory manner, just looking at people's behaviors and how we can get sucked into a different line of thinking than what we originally had, and how we can get so wrapped up and start to do things that we never would thought we would based on somebody's manipulation of us. I just hope that's coming through on what I'm trying to say. Again, this is fair use for commentary and educational purposes only. All rights go to the original owners of this content. And this is Jodi Hildebrandt talking about her values she taught within connections.
One day, distorting the truth. And I was like, oh, brilliant. Distortion. Every single one of us goes into distortion.
On August 30th, 2023, a man called 911 after a little boy showed up at his doorstep hungry and thirsty. The little boy, who identified himself as R, said that he came from Jodi. Nothing else for this man and his wife to realize that R needed help, and he needed it fast. So that's when they called 911.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty. And he asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid.
Okay, and are the neighbors out of their home, or is anybody looking for them that you can see?
No, our homes are far enough away. I'm not sure. How did you get out of the house?
Porch. He went out.
He says he just left through the porch at the neighbor's house. Her name is Jodi Hildebrandt, and she lives 2 doors up the street.
Out here in Cayenne,
out here in Cayenne, the houses are far apart, so he walked just under the block to get to our house. He rang my doorbell and asked me to call the police.
Now, as the police were coming into the neighborhood, they were stopped by Jodi in her car, who said that she was out looking for a boy. So the police told her that
So this is Ruby Franke's one of her younger children, and I will only call him R out of respect for his privacy. He is a minor, and I do know that this can get graphic on some of the things they show with these children. Please be advised with this trigger warning. This content section and the comment section may contain discussions that are sensitive. Please engage with your own mental health, your care, and prioritize your well-being. If things are too much for you, take a step back. I do know that this will not have the really graphic content. I have seen it. I went to just go and look, and just out of curiosity, and I did see, and it's bad. So this is R, F, and he did escape from Jodi's house, and he went to a next door neighbor, and this is how what was going on inside of this home with these two women was discovered. And he had been severely CA'd. He had been evidence of him being tied down and being basically a prisoner in a small closet inside of this home. It is really, really, really disturbing stuff. Again, trigger warning, if this is too much for you, please take some time away from the screen. Take care of yourself, take care of your well-being, because sometimes with our own backgrounds and experiences, things can trigger us in different ways. And I want to be very mindful of that on my channel. So here is RF. And we'll just go a little bit more into this today, and then we're going to stop because I only want to go about an hour at a time right now. I am learning still how to do different things on YouTube and how I want to do things on my channel. So here's a little bit more of
they
what
were out
happened
looking for a
next
boy
in
as
this
well,
saga.
that same boy. And Jodi was basically like, oh, okay, I'll wait at my house. Then once they got to Jodi's neighbor's house and actually laid eyes on R, it was beyond clear that he needed help and he needed it quickly. They began cutting the duct tape off of his legs and they moved him into the ambulance. The smell of flesh was all that the officers could smell, and the wounds, far beyond what most had ever seen, was all that they could see. When an officer asked R how he got those wounds, R told him that they were caused by ropes that Jodi and his mom Ruby had put on him. He also told the officer that they would put cayenne pepper and honey on those wounds as a dressing. And guys, some of the pictures that were taken of the children's injuries when they were at the hospital are so graphic that everybody's been blurring them out, even mainstream media, even 2020, everybody, because they are truly horrific. So I'm going to describe them, but I'm not going to show them because I don't think they need to be out there personally. You can see where the restraints were on the ankles, and you can see the skin on the legs are completely chapped. It's raw. You can start to see muscle below it. It is like it has literally disintegrated the skin. You can see the shoulder blades sticking out of R completely, as though he is so malnourished and underweight. It looks like literal wings coming out of his back. That's how much they are protruding. And then there is a wrist wound where, to me, it almost looks like a burn, even though I know it's not, maybe partially a rope burn, but it's like a slit, not even a slit's the wrong word, guys, a gash on his wrist. And it's so deep that you can see muscle, you can see tissue, you can see fat. And it is like, gosh, I want to say it's like an inch wide, something like it is so horrific. When I saw it for the first time, I'm not exaggerating, guys, I did start gagging. It is so awful. And
so that's where I can tell you, if you want to go look at these pictures, you can find them. They are extremely graphic, and unless you are comfortable seeing severe wounds on a body, I highly suggest you do not go look yourself, because they are very disturbing. And I liked this particular influencer because they did not show the graphicness of this case. They did not show exactly how bad this was, and even with a blurred picture, but it's some gruesome stuff that was happening to these kids. And I think that the son here at the time was 10 or 11, which it just astounds me. The little girl was 7 or 8 by this time, but this behavior had went on for a while. And the severeness of what happened to them should not be overlooked. And how this came to be is what I want to highlight. How do we get here? How did things get to this point? And why does it take so long for these kinds of cases to come out in the open, and for children like this to be basically rescued from these types of situations. So I'm seeing everybody in the chat over here. I see that Golden, she just said she's been bouncing in and out. I do that a lot myself. Completely understand. You can go back and watch and listen what we were talking about. And not joking to me, listening and working with my hands. I do that all the time. I have my headphones on a lot. If you're getting weird sounds from me, it is because my headphones died and I'm going directly off my computer instead of through my headphones right now. But yes, Golden says this is what we need to fight for, helping the children and the kids. And a lot of people say that that's what their channel is about, but then that's not what they're truly focusing on. And with my experience, when people try to reach out to help, they aren't likely to take in that help because that's not what they're truly that's not their true motivations. I'm seeing this with a lot of different content creators that I have been following for a while. We say we are for one thing and we're fighting for this one thing, and it almost becomes a smoke and mirrors effect. I want you to focus on we're trying to help kids and we're talking all this stuff about kids, but we're not really doing anything. But I want you to focus on this instead of that over there. And focus on over here. This is what I'm trying to really do over here, but don't focus on what these other people are saying about me over there. And it's part of the manipulation. We want to help kids. I am all for helping kids. That's why I came onto YouTube in the first place. I have always been about helping children, about helping them to become more successful adults, to have a brighter future, and to step up for the ones who don't have a voice. And these children, in this case, they did not have a voice. They're now coming out as adults, the older ones, and they're coming out with their voice and saying what actually happened to them. And it is absolutely eye-opening. Another case I'm following right now is the Lori Vallow Daybell case. And there were signs in her case before her children ultimately lost their lives in her case. And people were trying to alert authorities that things were going on. It wasn't all on YouTube. Parts of it were. If you know where to look, parts of her stuff was on YouTube. Parts of the warning signs were there, or at least on a podcast. And if you want more information on that case, I highly recommend you go look at Hidden True Crime with Lauren and Dr. John. They are fabulous at breaking down that whole case. And I also follow Kobe Ryan, who is her adult son, who it was the older sibling to Tylee and JJ, who again they and Tammy and Charles and several other people lost their lives to these people who were pushing ideals and beliefs out that were a distortion of actual truth and manipulating to get what they wanted and their ultimate goals. So that's another case I follow. If we want to follow some of that on my channel, we can. But yes, we need to help children that are traumatized and not getting the help they need. We absolutely do. And then it's a cycle. You're traumatized as a child, you become a traumatized adult. Trauma literally affects how our brains develop and the way we act or react to things. That's where PTSD and complex PTSD, CPTSD come in. But that is not how your brain was nurtured and developed all along the way, like a traumatized child. That is trauma coming in later in life and then it becoming reoccurring in that cycle. It's just a different way that trauma affects the body. And it goes back to our primitive ways of thinking. They call it the monkey mindset. If you do a lot of research into neurodivergent and how we are all different, if you can't tell, this is one of those passions of mine, especially as a teacher, is how our brains function, how we learn things, how trauma affects our brains, because it will literally shut a child down where they cannot learn in school for the day, or it will make it where somebody reacts or responds a certain way, whether they intend to or not. And that goes into the PTSD and CPTSD, where a vet can hear a firework boom and they automatically think it's a gunshot and they are fearful for their life. Or somebody who is an SA abuser, not abuser, SA survivor, very different things there. Somebody who is an SA survivor, I don't say victim, it's a survivor. You survived a traumatic experience and you have to move on and see yourself as a survivor instead of as a victim. But these types of trauma survivors, they can get triggered just based on different stories they see in the media. And it's just, our brains are fascinating, and we can rewire and retrain our brain into thinking different ways. That's how these people manipulate our own thinkings. And it's a way of learning more about our divergent behavior, our brains, how we're all different. All of us are different in different ways. We all see things around us in a different way. And so just a couple of the comments here before we close up. I loved Mama's video on misogyny. I saw that. I did too. We spoke a little bit about misogyny last night. At least I did a little bit. And I have some different views on things in the world than other people might. I come from a very rural area of the United States. People don't realize that depending on where you live, that will determine how you look at life and your experiences. And people in urban areas look at things differently than people in the rural areas. Just like people in one country have different perceptions and different thoughts about things as somebody from another one. And we have to keep that in mind. It's perception versus perspective. That's exactly what I'm trying to say here. And what formulates the way we view everything around us. And as people, and especially as children, when you look at children and the way children develop, children are very egotistic, which means it's all about me. It's mine, mine, mine. If you have a toddler, everything is mine. When they get a little bit older, 4, 5, 6-year-old, we want everything to be ours. We don't understand sharing at that point. That's when we're trying to teach it and teach those values in that it's not all about us. But then we outgrow it. And especially as Americans, this is coming from American, just a different way of looking at ourselves. We tend to be egocentric. We tend to think that America is the only country, America is the best, and everybody has to agree with us. And if you don't, then you are below us. And we are very egotistic in thinking that the way we've been raised in America is the same as everybody else in the world. And until you start talking to people who are international, you don't realize things are different based on where you're at. We have different words, we have different terminology, we have different views on all kinds of issues. And even just within the United States, We have different views of all of our political issues, and you can be on any part of the spectrum, but you have to understand somebody else is coming at it in a different way for a reason. And if you really want to understand the other side, you have to have conversations with them. And not, I'm going back at you back and forth. We're going to argue who's right and who's wrong, but really listening to the other side, listening to what they have to say and absorbing it in, and then evaluating it for yourself. We are so quick to, no, I'm right, no, you're wrong, no, I'm right, no, you're wrong, back and forth and back and forth, instead of truly just listening and learning from each other. So that's one thing I want to highlight on my channel, is just how to look at the world in a different way and realize what makes us us, what makes you you, and what makes you different than everybody else. And kids want guidance and direction. Absolutely. Our kids want you to listen, and our kids want you to guide them in how to be. But they don't get that unless you teach that. And so many times we just assume that they're going to just fall in line, and they are not taught the proper skills at the right development stage for them to be able to grow and develop into a successful adult. And then you start the cycle all over again when you have children and you were not raised to gain those social skills, to gain how to really, this is evaluating and really looking into your core being, who you are, what makes you you. When you're not ever taught how to do that, you can't teach somebody else. So this is just me rambling on things that do interest me. Like I said, I do lots of research. I do lots of studying. Kids want guidance and direction. They hate guidance and direction at the same time. My two sons, they do not like that I'm going to call their teachers and make sure that their grades are done and their work is getting complete. Right now, me and my older son are going round and round because he might be failing a class. And I'm trying to teach him that responsibility of how to do it himself versus mama going to go in there and make sure. And he got 2 more days to get stuff done, and we shall see what happens. That's me as a parent right now with my children. Golden facts. And for us to properly teach and guide them, we have to make sure that they are striving towards being the best versions of ourselves with healing and wellness. Exactly. That is exactly my goal. And my philosophy, just as an educator, is I want my students to be successful adults. I want to see them learn and grow regardless of the age that they're in my classroom, and then grow and develop and mature so that when they get out of high school, they have the skills they need to be a successful adult in whatever field they choose to go into. And that I want to be that kind of person. It's always been me. To me, teaching is almost like a mission field. I will talk about this a lot of times because this is something I'm so passionate about. And it's my life's mission to lead not just young people, but anybody to be a better person. So that is me. I'm not on camera right now. And I don't know if I will be off and on because of being a professional. I'm kind of iffy about being on camera, but I have a candle that I was given when I graduated college 20 years ago. And we were given this at a ceremony at the end of college, right when we were graduating. And it was a reminder to be a light in the world in the darkness, and how just one little light can be a spark into somebody for them to become a better person. And that's just the way I look at life, that we can all be somebody's light in discovering who they are, where they want to go, and leading them to be who they need to be, who they want to be. We must be fated or called to the front lines because not many can stomach the harshness. We have to make it easier for others to comprehend. Absolutely. And sometimes people can't comprehend even if you say it to them. They just do not want to comprehend. They don't want to understand. You have to want to understand to get to that point, to get past the I'm going to argue because I think I'm right and you're wrong. We get stuck in that. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm going to prove I'm right and that you're wrong. Instead of listening to each other to see, was I right or are you wrong? And sometimes you are and sometimes you are not. Sometimes you catch yourself where, okay, I wasn't right in that instance. I actually was wrong and they called me out on it and I deserve to be called out on it. Sometimes that happens. So love it. I'm glad you're loving what I'm saying. I'm glad you're listening. Makes me feel good that somebody's actually listening to me, not just ramble on about things I'm passionate about. Because this really is something I'm passionate about in life. When two or more are gathered in agreement, that is exactly what I believe right there. Survivors need softness, gentleness, and kindness. They do. And it takes a while for you to heal past the point of I'm a victim to a survivor. I am a survivor myself of CA and SA. I don't want to go into that at this moment, but it really can take you 20 years to heal from, or more, to heal from trauma that you sustained. And you go down this course in life where as you're trying to heal, you can actually be destructive because you're fighting back against how you need to heal. And the pain and the self-loathing that we have towards ourselves, and it shouldn't be there because you are not the one who did the actions. You should not feel shame for something that happened to you, but because of somebody else, whether you put yourself in the situation or not, ultimately that other person is who made the choice to do that thing to you and to harm you. And we have to get past victim blaming and victim shaming. But in that same aspect, you can't be a false victim. When we get false victims and people who want to just be part of the hype and then they get caught up in their lies, it makes the real victims lose credibility. It makes them want to be quiet. It makes them want to just back out and go away. And part of it is that if you have CPTSD or PTSD from trauma and abuse, you know what I'm talking about. You just want to back out, or this is me anyway. We have different ways. We all look at trauma. We have fight, flight, now my tongue's going to get twisted. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Those are the 4 responses to trauma. And I can do a little presentation on this. If y'all want more information on it, just let me know in the chat. Flight is I'm going to try to leave at all costs. I'm going to get away. Fight, I am going to fight you tooth and nail. Freeze, I'm just going to stop and I'm just going to freak out for a little bit because I don't know what to do. And then fawn is I'm going to try to appease you and I'm going to try to get out of this and smooth things over so we can move on, even though what you did is very traumatic to me. That's kind of just a very short breakdown of what those trauma responses are. And we all have different ways we respond. and it's based off of our past experiences. And if you've been through that trauma or not. And some of these things, you have to have gone through that type of trauma in that way for it to actually affect you to a point where you do get triggered. Some things will trigger and some things won't. This is just my opinion and my basis based on my experiences. If this is too much for you, again, I will always put up trigger warnings. If you're in my chat, remind me. I do promote you to use self-care, prioritize your well-being, take a step back from the screen, practice some ways of, if you want ways of doing mindfulness, I can work on that with my channel. Working on ways to build past that trauma. Golden has been doing some of this on her channel as well, on how we deal with different aspects of life and how they affect our actions and ultimately what we do and what we say and how we view on things. So, yep, I do. I said I'm in the attic. I'm in the attic because that's where the light is. That's where the heat is. That's where the light is. I want to be warm and be in the light and in the truth and not in the basement in the dark. And you're interested in the healing process and aftercare for trauma, I can definitely look for some resources with that. I have done a whole, and this is based off of myself and my healing journey and things that I find that help me heal, that help me when I feel like I am in going into that crisis mode, when something has triggered me, and it's a spiraling aspect. If you don't know how to stop the cycle of PTSD or CPTSD, it can be very hard to stop that cycle and get caught back into it. And I can definitely look for some different resources on this healing process for trauma. I do have some. Again, I am not a doctor. I am not a psychologist. I am not giving anybody any type of medical advice. I will not pretend that I am such at any point in time. I am a person who does a lot of researching, and that as an educator, I do have some training and some experience in what I'm talking about, but also just as a person, I want to know how people do things, why they do things. But I will not do that at any point in time. So, with psychological matters, with how to help, I don't understand what exactly this is meaning right here. I was kind of poking on some of the other people who've come out saying these things lately, because this is not what I'm about. I have limited training, but a lot of research knowledge. I will just put it that way. I had a typo. It's a correction. Okay. So, oh, I see you now. I see what you're talking about now. Anyway, this is just me. This is just Risa. This is what I'm about. I have one last thing I want to show you because this is something I am passionate about, a kind of a passion project. I have been seeing all of these content creators go online and scamming people out of money and trying to get people to send them money in different forms and fashions for different fundraiser kind of things and donations. And I want to show people that you can actually make a difference with a platform the right way and be transparent, and everybody know that they are actually making a difference in this world. So I am sponsoring a local charity. It is called Breed Love. It is local to me. I'm going to show my very short little, it's about 2 minutes long if you can watch till the end, and it explains a little bit about what it is. I want to go on a tour and show you guys because this is real. I really do mean I don't want to do scams in any form or fashion. That is absolutely against my principles as a person to do something like that. But I want to show we can really make change and do it the right way and do it transparent, where you know your money that you are giving is actually going to help a real person.
I came to YouTube wanting to help others and advocate for real change, not empty promises, not flashy scams, not to put money in somebody's pocket. Breed Love is a nonprofit organization that provides nutritious, ready-to-eat meals to people in crisis worldwide.
Can you hear
Whether
this
it's
one?
fighting
You
daily
can't tell
food
if it's
insecurity
or not.
or responding to major disasters, their meals go to where they're needed the most. For just $5, you can provide 100 servings of food. Right now, you can pause this video, scan the QR code on the screen, or you can go to breedlove.org for more information. The links are below in the description. If you're donating from inside the United States, you can go directly to the breedlove.org website. Or if you are international, you can send your contribution directly to me, to my PayPal or my Cash App. I will personally ensure the transfer to Breedlove, and I will send you a receipt as confirmation. I don't do scams. Please email me at unapologeticallyrisa@gmail.com. I want to keep a counter of how many meals we, as a community, have helped serve. Hunger is a problem we can fight. With your support, Breed Love can send more meals, save more lives, and bring hope to those who need it most. It's easy to feel helpless when the world's problem seems so big. We can be the reason someone eats today, because no one should have to go to bed hungry.
So, I don't know what's happening. So apparently I need to cut off the end of my little video right there because it kept going after I videotaped it. But that is Breed Love. They are a local organization to me. What they do is they make pre-made, non-perishable food that they send out to impoverished nations, people who are in severe poverty, homeless organizations. And then the thing I really like about Breed Love is they do disaster relief. When I was in college and we toured them, they were in production post Katrina. They sent out, I don't even know, I'd have to go back and look at the newspaper articles of how much they sent out after Hurricane Katrina. They just sent out stuff with North Carolina after the hurricanes. They sent to Ukraine with the war going on in Ukraine. I'm going to contact them pretty quickly because I want to know if they are sending to Myanmar, where the earthquake was just recently, and if they're sending any to Israel into Gaza. I've not looked into that. They don't have any publications out about either of those two places, but the others they do. If you go to their website, it's breedlove.org. If you are United States, you can actually go donate directly to them. I do ask if you do to email me because I want to keep account of how much my channel has helped people, how many people we have helped around the world. And if you are international, again, my PayPal and my Cash App are in my descriptions, also with my video. I will send you a receipt that your funds were transferred in full to Breed Love. I do not scam people. I want to make that clear. I want to show that it is possible for us to make a difference in the right way where all these other people are not. That's just one of my goals. I'm not calling anybody out, no names, no nothing, just things I've been seeing. And one more time, all of my content is under fair use and for commentary and educational purposes. All rights to the videos I use do go to the original owners. And it is for teaching and research and news reporting only. I hope you guys have learned something from me today. I went longer than I thought I was going to, but that is perfectly fine. And I hope you have an awesome, amazing day, evening. I will always end this way. Have a good day, evening, morning, good night. We are all different parts of this world. So kind of like the Truman Show. What did he say? How was his good day, good afternoon, good evening, and good night? That's what they used to say on that show. So I will talk to you guys next time on the flip. Until then, just Risa, and don't forget to be unapologetically you.